With HHHub, you can do some really amazing power searches that you couldn't easily do in any other system. I'm going to show you today what I mean by examples of power searches. So you can start with something kind of simple. Any field in HHHub on the contact screen is searchable. So if I go to Contacts and select Find Contacts, I can search on any field that's got a magnifying glass. So for example, let's say I just want to find something simple, like all the people in a given county. Hit Continue, and now I'm given a list of all of those people. You'll notice that when I went to Find Contact, a status bar appeared at the top here. We're going to talk a little bit about what the status bar allows you to do. So let's say you'll notice that there's a button for New Request. Here, there's a button for including and omitting, and there's some operators. We're going to go through a couple of these operators, but these are pretty powerful. And so I'm back in Find mode with Contacts now, before I search on a county. Now, let's say I want to add to this search, and when I add to a search and I put something all in the same screen, that's essentially like saying and. So for example, if I say I want to find anyone who was in Lake County, and also a peer. So that's an and search because it's all in the same screen. So I'm going to hit Continue now, and there are two records where they're in Lake County and also a peer. These two records. Now, we can do the same thing where it would be an or. An or is where you create two different requests. Let me show you what I mean by that. So if I go to Find Contact, I do the same thing, Lake, but instead of putting peer here, I'm going to hit the New Request button, and you'll notice that the lake disappeared because it's in this second request here. So I can go back here and see my first request in this upper right area, move to the second request, and now if I hit peer, this is essentially where I'm doing an or search. So now I'm saying I want to find all the people in Lake County or people who are a peer. So you'll notice that the result is more records because it's going to be any of those. Some of them most of these might only be people who are Lake, but some of them also might be people who have peer up here. So if I scroll through them, so it appears like these are only people who are Lake, and in this case, people also have Lake and peer. So let's, for example, here, watch, let's do this. So let's find someone, just for purposes of this example, let's find someone who's in a different county. Let's say Summit. Continue. Only one person in Summit. Let's make them a peer also. So now this person is also a peer. So let's repeat our search. We're going to do a Find Contact, Lake County, do a New Request, and do peer. And if we hit Continue, all those same records are found, but also among those records is going to be that Geauga County record, or Summit County record rather, that is also a peer. So because we did an or search there. In addition to and or searches, and being able to search on any field on the screen, you can also do what I call partial text searches. So for example, let's do a find, and let's just put, let's say, SM in the last name field, and continue on that, and let's see what we find. So we find anyone where the last name has an SM in it, including Jose Smort, Jane Smith Dorr, Jane Smith, and Adam Smith. And in addition, we can do other types of searches. So for example, we can do a wildcard search. A wildcard is, let's find anything that has a value, period. So let's say, for example, I want to find anything where there is a date in the volunteer field, any date at all. So hit Continue on that, and this time it's taking us to any person who volunteered ever. Now, you'll notice this is a date field. So one cool thing about date fields is we can do a wide range of searches in there. So let me show you an example. We can, for example, find based on a range of dates. So let's say we want to find from 1/1/21. ... is how we put a range in. 3/1/21. This is now going to find anyone who volunteered in that date range. So now we've got Abigail in February of 2021. Then we've got Franklin, and we've got Jane, who had a few different ones, but including our date range. So we can also do a search. Date searches are you can do based on months or years easily as well. It's got to be the current year, though. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let's do a find for just one. Now, what's going to happen when I do one? It's going to automatically search on any record that is for January of the current year. So it automatically recognizes that as the current year. And let's look here. And you can see we've got Jane for 1/2022, and Ben also from 1/2022. Now, that's only going to work again for the current year. I could do a year itself. So let's say I want to just find anyone who is 2022. I could just put 2022 in here, and it'll automatically recognize that. Again, just the same two records, but in this case, it would have been anyone in 2022. Let me show you one other type of OR search. We could search in the categories field for OR, for example. So let's say I want to find anyone who is family, and new request. Family or deceased. So it's going to show me that. So we've got Abigail, who is deceased. We've got Eric, who's deceased. Lady Bird Johnson, who's deceased. Ginger Morton, who is family and not deceased. And Franklin, who is deceased. Jane, who's family. And James, who is family. And yeah. So now that's an OR search, right? Let's do that same search, but this time we're going to omit one of the values. So for example, let's just go back here. We had, do we have anyone who's family and deceased here? Appear deceased, someone who's just deceased. So let's say that Ginger Morton, just in this example, is deceased. We're going to just make a couple of these people deceased that are also family. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a find. And you'll notice that there's a button here, up here, that says include or omit. By default, searches are include. That means that we're trying to find all of the records that include that criteria. But I could do a search that omits. This is a little tricky to understand, and I encourage you to play with it. But so let's show you an example. Let's say we want to find anyone who is deceased. So that's is deceased. I'm going to do a new request and omit anyone who is family. So now let's see what we find. So it's going to find just 3 records because there were records that were deceased and family before, and it's not going to find them anymore because those records automatically got omitted. This is an example where let's do the opposite. Let's do a find and instead do family and omit the people who are deceased. So let's do family, include, new request, omit, deceased. I could see many examples where you would want to do that, where you'd want to omit all the deceased people. So now we just found 2. Jane is family and not deceased, and James is family and not deceased. So for whatever find of records that you found, any set of records that you found, you have the ability to export those records. So we've currently found 2 records, and if I click on Export Found Set, it's going to give me a new screen that's going to give me an option to export, and I'm going to choose here to do Export Excel, and let's say I'm going to say family not deceased as a title, and then I'm going to save this. We've got some Excel options here, like naming the worksheet if we want to, or the title of the document. And then we're taken to a list of default fields for our export. And these are most of the fields you're going to need for your export. And so I'm going to export that. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, here's our Excel file. And it's got all of those fields automatically exported. So we can at any time export a found set of records with all of our contact data, including email address, phone number, work home phone number, work email, home email, pretty much all of the details, including the household details related to the record. What household they're part of, what position they are in the household, things like that. All of that gets exported and can be exported at any time for any found set of records.